All right, hello and welcome to this review of the Exploring Technology class for the 2019-2020 school year and the Tech 2s that have been earned by my students. My name is Mr. Flickinger and I'll be taking you through this quick little technology class by the numbers. Before we get started, I want to kind of put context on this by this little slide here of these three young men earning their Eagle Scouts. Sorry, four young men. The one on the far right is my son, Peter. Let me just gray out the other ones there so you can kind of see my son, Peter. And first of all, he was bad at sewing the badges onto his sash, but he did earn them all. They're just not on there just yet. If you can see from some of the other young men there and all their badges that they had. Okay, so how I want to put this in context is that my son, in scouting, you have some required ones and some elective ones. And he had done all the required ones, didn't know what he wanted to do for electives. So he was just kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall. Finally picked one to go do. One was aviation, where you got to go fly in a private plane with a local pilot. And the other was electronics. He did electronics. He came home from the library that day. He went off to do it. I think he did it every Saturday for a couple of months. And he was so excited. He loved electronics. It was a great thing. But the reason I tell this story is that you're going to see some Tech 2s that are very popular. And that's kind of like the kids doing the required ones. And it's not until we've been doing this for a couple of years, and this is the first year of doing Tech 2s, that students will really do things that maybe they're reluctant to try, only to discover that they're really good at it and they really like it. So don't be too concerned about which ones have lots of numbers and which ones have low numbers, because that will equal out after a few years once students kind of get the low-hanging fruit done first, things that interest them, and then they try something they had no idea about, and then it turns out that they really love it. So let's get right into it. Okay, so let's starting off with our famous middle school pulse show. We call it webcasting here, and it was a fantastic year for that. We were able to do 16 episodes, and if you add up all those minutes of each episode, it's over 223 minutes of original programming that was made by students. So that is just amazing. 223 minutes. That's a lot of programming. That's great. Okay, next up is robotics. Okay, so Lego EV3s. The students build some fighting robots and then some robots to handle some missions on Mars and those type of things. Now we have 26 students that earned this Tech 2. And this is low mostly because it was not one that could be done from home, since a third of the year was done in remote learning. So we kind of got through the first 2/3 and then we lost out the momentum on that. So that explains that number. The next is coding. Coding is really an interesting one, where they work with Scratch and they start by building games and get more and more complicated as they go up into level 2 and 3 of coding. And I'm really happy to say that 70 students have earned coding Tech 2. So that's really amazing for students that show that interest in coding. Next up is digital music using GarageBand, everything from just making loops to recording your own vocals, those type of things. And we have 104 students that showed an interest in that and gave us projects worthy enough for them to earn a Tech 2. So 104 for digital music. Next up is filmmaking, where they go in and start off by making documentary movies, and then they work up to more dramatic roles. And we had 51 students that finished their filmmaking Tech 2s. Podcasting was one of our popular ones using GarageBand, and we had 98 students earn that. Now that's not 98 episodes, because some of them are level 3, where you have to produce 4 episodes in one Tech 2. So there are well over 100 episodes that have been published, and they're amazing work that these students are doing here. So really great stuff there. And then we have pirate radio. This is one of those things, again, we had for the first 2/3 of the year, and we're not able to do it during remote learning. So we only have 22 students that earned that Tech 2. Mobile photography was probably our most popular one, where the students learn how to take better photos and edit those photos on their mobile devices. And we had 128 students earn the Tech 2. Next up is digital art, where they get inside Procreate and they start with some basic painting, learning levels in a digital paint, and then we're changing brushes, colors, those type of things, and then they work their way up to cartooning and then to fine artwork. And we had 100 students produce good enough projects that earned them Tech 2s. Really amazing stuff came out of these students. Then here is animation. Again, it's one that could not be completed with remote learning. So students use our studios there to make stop motion and flip grids and those type of things. And we had 45 students become great little animators and earn their Tech 2s for it. And then in our final ones, these were just added late in the year, but augmented reality, again, it needed the studio space, but we did have 32 students earn it, even though it didn't get offered until about November. We had 32 students that showed a lot of interest in it and were able to earn it before changing over to remote learning. Explainer videos was just added late in December, probably just before we broke for the break. And it is where you go in and you make these videos that show people how to do things. It's a great one for academics. You show your learning and you teach other people how to do things. And we only had 7 that did that. Again, this is why I tell the story of the scouting, because this one might be one that students don't know a lot about, but then we'll slide into it because they've kind of done all the other ones that interest them, only to discover that they are really good at making explainer videos. Electronics was a late arrival as well. We're always adding new Tech 2s, so this one was late in the game, and we had 11 students earn their Electronics Tech 2, where they do everything from, MAKEY. You can see he's with a banana here. He's learning that to control a game on his screen, to Circuit Playground, to building your own computer. So that's pretty great that we had 11 that get started in that area. And then finally, we had some movies being made during intersessions. This one is from the famous Free Advice movie that we had. These were all shot all over the campus in different scenarios, and really great movies that these kids made. And we were able to have 5 student-made movies before remote learning started. So that kind of concludes our presentation. So I wanted to just end with these words. So my son got interested in something that he had no, knowledge of and no original interest in. And it lit a fire under him so much that he is now graduated from university with a computer science degree. That all started when he had to do a scouting badge that he wasn't interested in, and he discovered that he liked it. And that's what really we're about for middle school. Giving them this buffet, and they'll try some that they kind of know about, and then when those run out, they have to try new things, and that's when the excitement really can start. And that's what as their teacher, as I really, really like when I see that, when a student, does an animation, they're like, I didn't know this is how animation works. This is so cool. Or they create their first radio show. And that's really what it's all about. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and I will see you again soon.